lot of people say, well, we need home prices to come down.
Mhm.
I guess they never lived through, like I did, what happens when home values come down. When home values come down, it's horrific. Nobody wants to buy a home. People are in a position of when prices come down, it's very difficult to obtain a mortgage because there's negative time adjustments on appraisals. These things cause enormous problems. And then appreciation on homes is a magic elixir. It fixes everything. Because if you think about people that may have a difficult time making their mortgage payment, they don't want to lose that equity they have. So they'll beg, borrow, whatever they've got to do to make the payment or sell in a market that's favorable to make sales in. And that puts them in a position where the credit quality is great. And having good credit quality, that affects everybody. So people jump the gun and say, oh, we need home prices to come down. Be careful what you wish for. That'd be the worst thing. And, if a real estate agent or a mortgage
Mhm.
professional is listening and they have any kind of experience in those down markets, really hard to talk to a buyer to purchase an asset that is declining in value. That becomes a
100%.
nightmare situation. When it comes to the other two levers, those are really important for us to understand. Incomes will go up over time. So time will fix things gradually. You just have to be a little patient. The other is interest rates. And interest rates finally are starting to become a little bit more attractive and easing the burden of that initial home ownership move. The other is that we see the Fed continuing to lower interest rates. And by doing so, you create a yield curve that steepens. All that means is that when the Fed funds rate is high, that's an important monitor. That's an important interest rate, whether it's high, whether it's low, because it's kind of like the mother's milk. It affects everything. And so when the Fed funds rate is elevated, there really isn't much of a difference between longer term rates and the Fed funds rate, which when you add something like that to take a look at adjustable rate mortgages, there's not a lot of room here to make an adjustable attractive. As the Fed funds rate starts to come down more aggressively, and it will, longer term rates will come down and they'll come down a little bit slower. But what that does is it creates separation between the two that you can now start to slide in more attractive adjustable rate mortgages. And this is an area that a very wise real estate agent or wise mortgage professional will be consulting with their clients about because it's an incredible option. Like, let's just use some round numbers here. Now I'll give you some estimates. So let's just take a 6.5% 30-year fixed rate or 6 3/8. Well, a 7-year adjustable would be roughly 5/8, 0.5%, maybe in some cases 0.75% lower. That's a big savings. That would do a lot to benefit a home buyer from an affordability standpoint, or allow them to reach for a little bit of a nicer home. That's a very big difference, but many people dismiss it. Oh, I don't want an adjustable. It's risky, this and that. And real estate agents and mortgage companies could do a much better job of articulating why things like a 7-year fixed or 7-year arm is a very wise choice. And here's why. If you were to take the savings from the 7-year versus a 30-year fixed, it's significant. Now, over the 7-year period, let's say on a $500,000 loan, you'd save over $20,000. A $20,000 savings is pretty darn meaningful. And even if rates go up from year 8 onwards, you'd have to eat into that savings. So it takes time. Now, there's different ways we can look at that. You could look at it from a perspective of, well, worst case scenario, it's Armageddon and interest rates go crazy. That would imply the Fed funds rate's going to go to 10%. Mortgage rates are going to be somewhere around 14, 15% and stay there and never come down. It's almost a fool's game to plan for that. You wouldn't make that your main base case focus and say, I'm planning on that. But if you did, you'd still be better for pretty close to 9 years. Still be better off mathematically. The money you've saved versus what you'd lose for the first 9 years, you have to be better off. And so for a 9-year period, go back in history, not a lot of people are in the same home with the same mortgage for longer than 9 years, if you think about that. But a more rational approach is, let's take a look at an average for 40 years or something like that of what it would be based upon, if it adjusts, what would be the adjustments based upon. And the truth of it is that you never lose that benefit, that money that you banked for the first 5 years, you never, 7 years, excuse me, you never tap into it by the higher rate that you're paying if you go by the historical averages. Now, there's a couple of other aspects that people don't realize. One is that lower rate for the first 7 years, part of that $20,000 benefit you're getting is amortization. The lower rate amortizes more, so you're building up more equity. And here's the other thing. If you're ready to take a 30-year fixed and willing to make that payment, that extra couple of $100 a month that you'd be saving, if you say, well, I was going to make the payment that was higher on the 30-year fixed, maybe what I'll do is I'll pay down my mortgage by that amount. Well, if you did that, now you get an extra $4,000 that you built up in the first 7 years. So there's lots of ways to articulate the benefits of adjustable rate mortgages. And to speak to your point about affordability, an adjustable rate mortgage could really move the needle. With regards to, is there a magic elixir other than lower rates that could do it more rapidly? There's talk about more construction happening and adding more supply. You don't want too much of a good thing, but that takes time to ramp up. You can't, blink and you can build a home and it appears. It takes time for that. The best thing that would happen is lower rates. That's the more immediate solution. Other products, that's the more immediate solution. And then over time, as incomes rise, you will see affordability improve.